In any relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or professional, effort is essential. We are often told that relationships take work, that love is not always easy, and that we should fight for the people we care about. While this advice holds value, it can become harmful when misunderstood or misapplied. Effort, when guided by blind hope rather than grounded reality, can trap a person in an emotionally unfulfilling situation. To understand the difference between effort and reality, we must first understand the purpose of effort itself. Effort in a healthy relationship is reciprocal. That means both individuals are contributing in ways that reflect their commitment to growing and maintaining the relationship. It's not always about grand gestures or constant communication. Sometimes it's the small acts of consistency, listening, showing up, or compromising that form the fabric of strong connections. However, when only one person is doing the emotional heavy lifting, constantly initiating conversations, planning time together, or compromising their needs, the balance breaks. It creates a dynamic where one person becomes the caretaker of the relationship and the other becomes the passive receiver. That is not sustainable, and more importantly, it is not fair. Many people stay in unbalanced relationships because they focus more on how much they're investing rather than whether their investment is yielding any meaningful return. This is what is meant by effort vs. reality. You can try your hardest, text every morning, plan thoughtful dates, express your feelings vulnerably, but if the other person does not respond with the same level of care, that reality cannot be ignored. The painful truth is that no amount of effort on your part can make someone feel what they do not feel or change someone who is not ready to change. There is also a common tendency to view relationship progress as a function of time and perseverance. People think if I just keep trying, he'll realize my worth, or maybe he's just scared of commitment, I just need to show him I'm loyal. These thoughts stem from a place of hope, but they often ignore present reality. If he is showing signs of emotional disinterest, being non-communicative, vague about his feelings, or not initiating any effort on his end, these are not signs that you should try harder. These are signs that you need to pause and reevaluate where this relationship truly stands, without romanticizing the potential that hasn't materialized. Effort must be met with feedback. In school, for example, if a student studies hard but consistently fails exams, it wouldn't be wise for them to continue using the same study methods without evaluating why the results are poor. In the same way, your effort in a relationship must produce emotional feedback, connection, appreciation, intimacy, shared plans, and emotional safety. If you're not getting that feedback, the relationship might not be as mutual as you believe. It's also important to recognize the role of patterns. Everyone can have a bad day or be distracted by personal issues now and then, but patterns reveal truth. If you find yourself constantly excusing his lack of interest or inconsistent behavior with phrases like he's just busy, or he's not good at expressing emotions, you might be turning effort into self-deception. Instead of interpreting his behavior based on how much you care, observe his actions objectively. If someone cares, they show it, perhaps not always perfectly, but clearly enough that you don't feel confused about where you stand. Another harmful belief that can misguide effort is the idea that love has to be painful to be real. Some people equate struggle with sincerity, as if enduring heartache proves their love is genuine. But real love is not about how much pain you can tolerate. It's about how much peace, support, and emotional security you can build together. If your effort constantly leaves you drained, anxious, or insecure, it's time to reflect on whether you're holding on to an illusion rather than a healthy bond. Effort should also not come at the cost of your self-worth. When you continually give to someone who does not value or reciprocate your energy, you can start to internalize their indifference as a reflection of your own inadequacy. You might begin to think, if I were more attractive, more interesting, more successful, maybe he'd treat me better. This mindset is not only false but damaging. Your value is not determined by someone else's inability to see it. Sometimes the most powerful form of effort is knowing when to stop trying, not out of bitterness or defeat, but out of respect for yourself. Ultimately, understanding effort versus reality is about learning to look at relationships clearly, without letting emotional investment blind you to what is actually happening. It's about asking yourself, is my effort building something real, or am I just holding everything together on my own? Am I staying because he makes me happy, or because I'm afraid of giving up after trying so hard? These questions are not easy, but they are essential for protecting your emotional well-being. Effort should feel like a bridge, not a burden. In a healthy relationship, your effort connects you to someone who meets you halfway. In an unbalanced relationship, your effort becomes a lifeline you keep throwing to someone who isn't even reaching back. No matter how much you care, love should never be a one-person job. The sooner we learn to distinguish between effort that builds and effort that breaks us, the sooner we can start investing in relationships that truly nourish us. Mutual respect is the foundation of any strong and lasting relationship. Without it, even love, attraction, and shared experiences begin to erode over time. Recognizing mutual respect, or the lack of it, requires more than just paying attention to words. It means observing behavior, communication patterns, and the overall emotional tone of the relationship. Many people continue trying with someone not because they feel respected, but because they are emotionally invested and hope things will eventually change. But hoping for respect is not the same as experiencing it. Respect is not something you should have to earn in a relationship. It should be there from the beginning and grow as the relationship deepens. To recognize mutual respect, we need to understand what it looks like in practice. Mutual respect means both partners value each other's time, feelings, opinions, boundaries, and individuality. It's not about constant agreement or perfection. It's about acknowledging each other's humanity and treating one another with basic dignity. If you voice a concern or express a feeling and your partner listens, validates you, and works with you toward a resolution, that's a clear sign of respect. On the other hand, if your concerns are dismissed, minimized, or flipped back on you, that's not respect. That's emotional avoidance or manipulation. One of the most common signs of a one-sided relationship is when one partner constantly justifies the other's disrespectful behavior. You may find yourself saying things like, "He didn't mean it like that," or "He's just stressed," or "He's not great with emotions." These may be true to an extent, but over time, repeated disrespect, even in small forms, adds up. Whether it's ignoring your messages, invalidating your emotions, canceling plans without explanation, or acting indifferent when you're upset, these are not signs of mutual respect. They're signals that your emotional needs may not be important to the other person. People often confuse effort with effectiveness. You might feel like you're trying everything, communicating openly, being patient, compromising constantly. But if you're not being met with similar effort and empathy, then the relationship lacks balance. In healthy partnerships, both individuals take responsibility for creating an emotionally safe environment. That safety cannot exist if only one person is trying to protect it. It's also important to pay attention to how your partner treats you in public and private settings. Mutual respect doesn't only show up in serious conversations or conflicts. It's present in the way they introduce you to others, speak about you when you're not around, and include you in their world. Do they take your thoughts seriously in conversations? Do they consider your preferences when making decisions that involve you? Or do they act dismissively or take you for granted, assuming you'll always be there no matter how they behave? Another key component of mutual respect is boundary recognition. Every individual has emotional, physical, and personal boundaries that deserve to be acknowledged. If your partner continually crosses those boundaries, whether by prying into private matters, pressuring you into things you're not comfortable with, or belittling your choices, then the relationship dynamic is inherently unequal. Respect means giving space, honoring limits, and being sensitive to what matters to the other person. Disregarding those limits and acting as though your comfort is less important than their desires reflects a clear lack of mutuality. Respect also includes the freedom to be your full self in the relationship. If you feel like you have to walk on eggshells, censor your opinions, or hide parts of your personality just to keep the peace, then you're not being respected. You're adapting out of fear of conflict or rejection. A respectful relationship encourages authenticity. It allows you to speak freely, express vulnerability, and pursue your own goals without feeling judged or diminished. People sometimes continue trying in a relationship simply because they love the other person, hoping that love will lead to respect. But love without respect is often just attachment. It's easy to get caught in the cycle of trying harder, being more patient, or constantly explaining your feelings in different ways, only to be met with the same dismissive responses or emotional distance. When someone truly respects you, they take your words seriously the first time. They don't wait for you to break down before they take action. It's also important to examine your own standards. Sometimes people tolerate a lack of respect because they don't fully believe they deserve better. Past experiences, low self-esteem, or fear of abandonment can lead someone to accept crumbs of affection and mistake them for meaningful effort. But you cannot build a healthy relationship on a foundation of self-neglect. Recognizing mutual respect starts with respecting yourself enough to walk away when it's absent. It's not a sign of weakness to admit when someone isn't meeting your emotional needs. In fact, it's a sign of maturity. It means you value your time, your energy, and your emotional health enough to stop fighting for someone who isn't fighting for you. Mutual respect is not just a bonus in a relationship, it is the standard. Anything less becomes a slow erosion of your self-worth and peace of mind. In conclusion, a relationship without mutual respect is not sustainable, no matter how much effort you invest. You should not have to convince someone to value you, listen to you, or treat you kindly. These are the most basic elements of emotional partnership. If they are missing, continuing to try may do more harm than good. Relationships should be a safe space, not a battleground where your dignity is constantly tested. When respect is present, you don't have to wonder where you stand. You feel it in how you're treated every day, and when it's not there, no amount of effort can replace it. One of the most common traps people fall into when navigating uncertain relationships is confusing kindness with commitment. The difference between the two may seem subtle on the surface, but understanding it can be the key to saving yourself months, or even years, of emotional confusion and heartache. When someone is polite, friendly, or occasionally affectionate, it's easy to interpret that behavior as a sign of deeper investment. But kindness, while important, does not automatically equal emotional availability, nor does it guarantee someone is ready to build a future with you. Being kind is not the same thing as showing up consistently, choosing you with intention, or building something stable together. We are naturally drawn to people who are warm and considerate. When someone listens to you, compliments you, or offers help when you're down, it creates a sense of closeness. These gestures feel meaningful, and often they are. But when these moments of kindness are not paired with commitment, clarity, or consistency, they can be misleading. It's important to understand that some people are simply kind by nature. They may show generosity or empathy to many people in their lives, not just you. When we want something to work out with someone, we can start assigning personal meaning to general behavior, interpreting normal decency as romantic interest or long-term intention. This misinterpretation becomes especially dangerous when you find yourself doing more in the relationship than the other person. If you're emotionally investing, making sacrifices, being vulnerable, and hoping for progression, but the other person is only offering surface-level attention, it creates a situation where you're holding on to hope rather than facts. You might find yourself saying, "But he's so nice to me," or "He listens when I talk," or he helped me when I was going through something. All of those things are positive, but they do not necessarily mean he wants to build a committed relationship with you. Kindness is a behavior. Commitment is a decision. It's essential to look at the full pattern of someone's actions, not just isolated moments of warmth. Does he make time for you consistently? Does he clearly express his feelings and intentions? Does he include you in his life in meaningful ways, introducing you to people close to him, discussing plans for the future, being emotionally present in hard times? If the answer is no, then no matter how kind he seems, his behavior is not reflecting true commitment. A person who is genuinely committed shows up for the relationship, even when it's inconvenient or emotionally demanding. People sometimes fear accepting the reality of a one-sided relationship because doing so means acknowledging the emotional investment they've made may not be returned. This discomfort leads them to focus on the small acts of kindness and ignore the larger absence of reliability or connection. This can keep you stuck in an emotional holding pattern, waiting for more, hoping that continued kindness will one day turn into something deeper. But waiting for someone to commit based solely on their potential or good nature is a form of emotional gambling, and often the odds are not in your favor. In some cases, people who are kind but non-committal are not intentionally misleading. They may genuinely care about you and enjoy spending time with you, but that doesn't mean they are emotionally ready or willing to enter a committed relationship. Others may even like the attention and closeness you provide without ever intending to take things further. This doesn't necessarily make them malicious, but it does make them incompatible with someone who is looking for something serious. It's not your responsibility to figure out their readiness. It's your responsibility to honor your own needs and boundaries. Clarity is a major part of commitment. If you're confused about where you stand with someone, chances are the relationship lacks direction. When a person is serious about you, they will make it known. They will take steps to eliminate your confusion, not contribute to it. They will not leave you guessing after weeks or months of emotional exchange. If you're constantly trying to read between the lines of their texts or questioning their intentions after every conversation, that uncertainty alone is a red flag. Emotional clarity should never feel like a puzzle you have to solve. There is also a cultural tendency to romanticize subtle signs, accidental eye contact, inside jokes, moments of tenderness. In movies and books, these moments often lead to grand gestures and confessions of love. But in real life, these brief sparks are not enough to sustain a relationship. You deserve more than fragments of connection. You deserve the full picture. Someone who doesn't just show you kindness, but chooses to build with you every day. Understanding the difference between kindness and commitment also helps protect your emotional well-being. When you stop mistaking politeness for passion, you start seeing situations more clearly. You become less likely to chase people who are emotionally unavailable and more likely to invest in relationships that are mutual, intentional, and secure. You begin to understand that a person can be good to you and still not be good for you. In the end, it's not unkind to walk away from someone who is nice but not serious. You're not being dramatic, impatient, or too demanding for wanting clarity and consistency. You're simply valuing your time, energy, and emotional health. Don't wait for kindness to turn into commitment. If someone is not choosing you clearly and consistently, it's okay to stop choosing them. You deserve more than nice gestures. You deserve someone who sees your worth and is ready to build something real with you, not someone who leaves you wondering if you're the exception in their generally warm personality. One of the most critical but often overlooked aspects of a relationship is the impact it has on your emotional well-being. While it's natural to want to work through challenges and give someone a chance, the long-term effects of staying in a situation where your emotional needs are consistently unmet can be deeply damaging. Emotional well-being is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It determines how you process stress, how you relate to others, how you make decisions, and how you see yourself. When a relationship starts to erode this core part of your health, it's time to reevaluate not just the relationship, but your relationship with yourself. Many people continue trying with someone because they believe it's noble to endure. They tell themselves that love requires sacrifice and that being strong means holding on even when things are painful. While commitment does sometimes require patience, there's a fine line between perseverance and self-neglect. It's not strength to stay in a connection that repeatedly leaves you anxious, confused, or unappreciated. True strength lies in knowing when your peace is being compromised and having the courage to protect it. One of the earliest signs that your emotional well-being may be at risk is emotional exhaustion. This doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, often unnoticed, as you invest more and more energy into making things work with someone who isn't matching your effort. You start overanalyzing every message second, guessing your worth and adjusting your behavior in the hope that it will make them care more, commit more, or simply show up. When you're spending more time worrying than feeling happy, that's a signal that your emotional health is under strain. Another red flag is the feeling of walking on emotional eggshells. If you find yourself constantly monitoring your tone, hiding your feelings, or avoiding honest conversations for fear of pushing the other person away, you're already sacrificing your emotional safety. Healthy relationships allow room for imperfection, disagreement, and vulnerability. If you feel like you have to earn love by being low maintenance or overly accommodating, you are shrinking yourself to maintain a connection that's not designed to hold all of you. That suppression takes a toll, not just on your mood, but on your identity and self-esteem. It's also important to notice how often you're justifying your unhappiness. When people are emotionally invested in someone, they often try to explain away the discomfort. It's just a rough patch. He has a lot going on. Maybe I'm expecting too much. These are common thoughts when you're trying to convince yourself that the pain you're feeling is temporary or fixable. But repeated emotional disappointment is not a phase, it's a pattern, and patterns don't change unless there's consistent effort from both sides. If the other person is not doing their part, your continued effort becomes a cycle of self-abandonment. Many people stay in emotionally draining relationships because they fear being alone. They believe that being with someone, even if that someone is emotionally unavailable, is better than facing the silence and uncertainty of single life. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. In fact, one of the loneliest experiences you can have is being deeply connected to someone who does not truly see or value you. That kind of loneliness damages your spirit far more than solitude ever could. Learning to be comfortable on your own is a powerful act of emotional self-preservation. It teaches you that your value is not defined by your relationship status, but by how you treat yourself and what you accept from others. Valuing your emotional well-being also means setting and enforcing boundaries. Boundaries are not about controlling the other person. They are about protecting your own peace. If someone continues to violate your boundaries or ignores them altogether, it shows a lack of respect. No relationship is worth losing your sense of self. You are allowed to say, "This doesn't work for me," even if the other person doesn't understand or agree. You are allowed to choose peace over potential, clarity over confusion, and fulfillment over fear. There is often guilt associated with walking away from someone you once cared deeply about, especially if they haven't done anything overtly wrong. Maybe they're not cruel, but they're inconsistent. Maybe they're not dismissive, but they're emotionally distant. Maybe they're not toxic, but they're not present. That gray area can make it feel like you're giving up on something that could be good, but emotional health is not about potential, it's about reality. You cannot build a stable foundation on what might happen. You have to respond to what is happening. In the end, valuing your emotional well-being means prioritizing how you feel day-to-day, not just what you hope will change someday. It means making choices that support your growth, your peace, and your sense of purpose. It means not staying in relationships where love feels like a constant effort to prove yourself or win someone over. Love should be nurturing, not depleting. It should add to your life, not drain it. You owe it to yourself to be in environments, romantic or otherwise, that feed your sense of wholeness, not your sense of inadequacy. If someone makes you feel like you're too much, not enough, or hard to love, it's not your job to shrink or stretch yourself to fit. It's your job to walk away and find peace elsewhere. Your emotional well-being is the compass that will always point you in the right direction, if you're willing to listen to it.